There we go. All right, so this is how you throw. All right, so step one, put your hair back if you have long hair. Get an apron, turn your wheel on. So you wanna come over here? Okay. This is your on switch. Every wheel has an on switch. Some wheels have a forward and reverse switch. Forward is where you want it to be aimed towards if you're left-handed. Rev is what you want it to be aiming towards if you're right-handed, which I am. You need some perfect clay, which means nothing inconsistent inside. It has to be nice and wet, not too dry, and fresh off the block of clay is ideal. Then you're gonna need a bowl of warm water. I like warm just because it's nice. A sponge, a big bowl. You're gonna need a bat. There are 3 types. The square type has holes here and it goes on like that. It's good for saving space. There's a round version of that same thing. Less good for saving space, but good for wider forms. And then there's the brown ones. There are 3 notches right across from each other. You put your fingers on those and you kind of use your fingers to hook them over these what are called bat pins. This is a bat, B-A-T, and these are bat pins. And you just kind of slide it on and make sure it's secure. If it doesn't slide side to side, you're good. Take the ball, which is a perfect sphere that you've smacked it into, and you're going to put it dead center. If you miss, like I just did a little bit, you just shove it over and you're gonna push it down regardless. So you wanna make sure that there's good suction there. Okay, next thing is important about body position. So I've got my legs on either side of it. I'm gonna put my hands in the water, put them on here, and spin full speed. And then I'm gonna anchor my elbows in my legs. You can hover like directly over my shoulder if you'd like to. And I'm gonna push away from myself like I'm pushing somebody, but I'm also gonna strangle it back towards myself with my fingertips. And that's how I'm going to do what's called coning up and coning down. So I've got my elbows in my body. Okay, so that's cone up. I'm gonna put my left hand on top and use this meat here to push down while I stabilize with my right, keeping this anchored in my body. I'm using my skeleton more than I'm using my muscles, okay? So that's going down. I'm gonna add water and I'm gonna do it again. I'm squeezing, pushing, left on top, pushing down into my other hand, going down and getting it centered, okay? I'm pretty good at this, so it's already centered, but I'm gonna review that one more time. So you're pushing away from yourself and squeezing into the clay, putting your left on top, and working with them together, stabilizing and engaging your skeletal strength there, okay? It will take you the first time you do this, maybe a half hour, so don't rush it. If it's not centered, it's not centered. This is what centered looks like, okay? There's no wiggle, there's no wobble. It just is symmetrical. This is not centered, okay? So you can tell there's a wobble to it. Just I'm gonna go ahead and center that again real quick. All right, so once I get my centered piece, notice I periodically just dip my hands in the water. Okay, I'm gonna cup my left hand on the outside, and with my right, I'm gonna find the middle and I'm gonna press down. And then I'm going to drag straight back towards myself. Okay, that left hand is keeping it from going off center. If I didn't have my left hand there, it would have gone off center. If I throw it off center a little bit at this point, see how that's off center, I can put my hands on the outside, drop my thumbs inside, and kind of just bear down on it and cross my fingers, so to speak, just like Pope. Okay, so I was able to get that centered again. So that's what to do if you throw it off at that stage. It's just hold it. Okay, now I'm compressing the bottom. Okay, I'm running my fingers across that bottom to compress it. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the next step, which is pulls. So I've centered, I opened up, I compressed it. Now I'm gonna do pulling up, which happens right here between 3 and 4 o'clock on a clock face. If I'm right-handed. If you're left-handed, by the way, everything that I've said you do with the opposite hand on the opposite side. So now I'm going to apply equal and opposite pressure here and go up and create a cylinder. If I wanted to make a bowl, I would apply more pressure on my inside hand and kind of go that way, but I'm making a cylinder. I like to have a sponge under my fingers on the outside, and I'm also slowing down to 3/4 of speed. And I'm just pressing on either side. and slowly going up and ghosting off the top. I don't want to make a sudden movement on the top. Okay, I'm going to come back down here to the bottom, applying equal and opposite pressure. And coming up and coming off. Okay, each pull I'm trying to make the whole thing bottom to top the same thickness. So I don't want like a really fat bottom and a really thin top. I want the whole thing to be the same all the way up. I do an average of like 4 to 6 pulls on your average piece. I'm sucking up the water that fell down into the bottom just now. Okay. I'm doing one more pull. Okay, so now from bottom to top, it's an even thickness. All right, I could do some shaping moves at this time. So if I were gonna make this into a vase, I could do what's called collaring, where I wet my hands and I push it in a little bit. Okay, I could use a rib tool if I wanted to, and apply pressure from the opposite edge, so that gives a little bit of, you know, some shape going on. I can use a couple fingers to define my top edge and make it sharp or have distinction. At this point I basically can play with it. And another thing I like to do is to use a tool like this, a beveled tip tool, to shave off any excess. Okay, and I'm kind of doing a little last pull back up, making sure that everything is even. Okay, so that, and I'm going to trim this off by cutting and then spinning. Okay, so that's a basic pot. From here, squeeze out a sponge, spin it, and clean up your bat. And then I want you to take some of your slippy fingers and write your name on your bat with slip, because that'll dry and it'll show whose pot it is. Do we have a wire cutter over here? That'd be too easy. That'd be great. So at this point, I'm pretty much done. I'm gonna clean up my wheel. And I'm gonna actually cut this in half and show you what the inside looks like, because it should be even all the way from the bottom through to the top. And if it's not, I would need to do what's called trimming, which is where I would remove any excess for the base. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm gonna show you what you should do, which is take a wire, put it flush, and drag it straight back, okay? I'm gonna lift my whole bat off, okay? And I would bag that and put it on my shelf. But like I said, I don't really care about this pot. I'm gonna cut it in half and show you what the inside dimension should look like. So don't do this part.
It's a rock.
That's weird. Okay, so this is what half of that pot looks like. So you can see I could trim this piece because I had a little excess thickness along the bottom, but this is about the thickness that you want to be going for. So you can kind of compare that to my finger. And I could recycle this clay now. The end. So you can press that recycle or the record button again.